Hold on tight, because this hearing just went from routine to explosive. We've got budget crises, political battles, and FBI leadership on the line. Director Patel is facing tough questions about accountability, weaponization, and budget cuts. And the answers? Well, you won't believe what happens next. Let's dive in.
Capitol, we're privileged to have the ranking member, the vice chair of the full committee with us today. Senator Murray, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair Moran. It's good to work with you and Ranking Member Van Hollen in this new position, so look forward to both of you and the work on this committee. You know, the FBI does really crucial work to keep our nation safe, whether it's stopping criminal organizations or domestic terrorists, protects our nation's secrets, it prevents cyber attacks, keeps our children safe from harm, and a lot more. So this is really sober work with extremely high stakes. And I'm concerned that instead of focusing on the incredibly important mandate to keep Americans safe and to help impartially enforce our laws under your leadership, Director Patel, the FBI has been weaponized to go after Americans who disagree with the president. FBI resources have been diverted away from combating terrorism to focusing on immigration requests. And all of this, the diverted missions, the fewer resources, fewer agents, heightened politicization, is happening now under your watch, and it is, I believe, making Americans less safe. Now, let me just start with the budget. As Ranking Member Van Hollen noted earlier, this hearing is being held without the FBI's fiscal year 2025 spend plan and a full budget request for fiscal year 2026. The spend plan is required by law. It was due to Congress over a week ago. We have not yet seen it. That is really absurd. The FBI is our nation's leading law enforcement agency, a budget of $10.7 billion. It is critical that we understand how you are spending taxpayer dollars. So, Director Patel, when should we expect this FY25 spend plan for the FBI? Have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? When will we get it?
I'll get you an answer, ma'am. I don't have a timeline on that.
It was due last week by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand. You're not going to follow the law?
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
Well, we also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
6 months from now?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not
Well,
going to
how
make
do
up the
we as Congress do our budget and our work without that request and without the spend plan?
Well, ma'am, I'm here. I'm
don't
doing the
care.
best I can. I can't make up answers. I'm going to commit to you to work on getting you the information you need.
That is insufficient and deeply disturbing. No response?
I've given my response.
Well, the FBI is already down 1,900 employees since 2023 as a direct result of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And under the Trump administration, FBI agents, analysts, linguists, cyber experts, and scientists are being asked to do a lot more in order to keep us safe. Director Patel, we all know that budget cuts will reduce the FBI's ability to counter threats of terrorism, and it will hinder its ability to keep pace with firearm background checks and shutter operations that combat violent crime, drugs, gangs, and transnational organized crime. Now, I understand that you told our House colleagues yesterday that you don't want to reduce the FBI workforce, meaning that you disagree with what President Trump is proposing?
No, I agree that we can sustain the mission with the proposed budget, and I agree with the budget. And as I said yesterday, I believe that what I said was I can do more with more. And I gave examples of what more we could do if we were given more.
Well, it's different than what you told the House yesterday. So what are you communicating to the President and the White House about what you need and what? And again, we don't have a budget request from you, so I'm not sure what you're asking us for.
I'm not asking you for anything at this time.
You can operate without a budget?
I never said that.
Well, this is unprecedented. Okay, well, let me just go to another topic since you're not going to answer that. The FBI partners with state, local, and tribal law enforcement organizations. They provide critical intelligence and operational capabilities to combat violent crime and gangs and terrorist threats, fentanyl trafficking, challenges that our local communities really can't face alone. I'm going to give you an example. A few years ago, the Southeast Washington Safe Streets FBI Task Force worked with our Benton County and Franklin County Sheriff's Office, multiple Tri-Cities Police Departments, and the State Corrections Department to carry out one of the largest ever drug seizures in the region's history. Now we've got an administration already cutting more than $800 million in assistance in 2025 to local law enforcement organizations while proposing a $500 million cut for the FBI. Director Patel, can you explain to this committee how cutting resources for our local law enforcement partner agencies the FBI relies on to help your bureau keep safe? How do you expect the FBI and local law enforcement to do more without those significant resources they need?
Wow. What a showdown. Let's break this down. Director Patel was cornered over more than just budget delays. The real issue here? Accountability. The FBI is supposed to protect all Americans, not just serve political agendas. And when Patel was asked about the FBI's shifting priorities and politicization, the cracks began to show. He couldn't fully commit to answering hard questions, especially about FBI reassignments and the impact of budget cuts on national security. Instead of offering clarity, he deflected to hard, concrete examples of FBI operations. But let's be real, there was no clear answer about the deeper problems facing the Bureau today. When the FBI is this disconnected from the truth and this unwilling to show its cards, it risks losing the public's trust. And when Patel avoided answering questions directly about political retribution and FBI resource allocation, he didn't just dodge responsibility, he reinforced the idea that the FBI may have already become a pawn in a partisan game. If anything, this hearing demonstrated how vital it is to demand full transparency, especially when we're talking about our most trusted law enforcement agencies. The FBI's mission needs to be about keeping us safe, not playing politics.
The FBI will continue to do what it does, which is work with embedded state and local law enforcement officers in our Joint Terrorism Task Force, in our Safe Streets Task Force, in our gang task forces. Those are a priority. Those billets have been maintained. Those billets have not been reduced. And with my reorientation, reprogramming that we've notified Congress to, you will see an augmentation in the field in every single state in this country.
Well, again, we need to see the numbers and we need to see that budget from you. Let me ask you about the NICS system. The FBI is really on the front lines of keeping guns out of the hands of very dangerous criminals. The NICS serves a really critical role in enhancing national security and public safety by conducting background checks. You know this. They are supported by the vast majority of American people, and I wanted to ask you this morning, will you commit to continuing to fund and run the FBI background check system?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to ask one final question here, Mr. Chairman. I want to talk again about how the FBI is focusing its resources. President Trump has turned the Department of Justice into a tool to go after his perceived enemies, and many of the actions we have now seen at the FBI are alarming. The FBI has reassigned and pushed out career FBI agents for political reasons. We have seen fear and intimidation promoted throughout the Bureau, including by polygraphing your own staff. We've seen the arrest of a sitting judge in Wisconsin, and during your confirmation hearing, you committed that there would be no politicization, no retribution at the FBI under your leadership. You've reportedly placed FBI employees responsible for investigation January 6 cases on leave. Is that keeping up your promise of no politicization, no retribution?
It is, because that's wildly inaccurate. Let me tell you what the FBI has done since I got there. 8,276 federal arrests, to 820 kilograms seized of fentanyl. That's enough to kill 250,000 people, over 3,000 firearms seized, 350 gang cases, 3,000 cases against violent
well,
criminals.
that's not my question. We know that you...
Well, you asked if I was weaponizing the FBI, and I am not. I'm giving you the hard, concrete examples of the men and women putting handcuffs on bad people, doing harm to our children and innocent Americans. I do not see weaponization.
You have placed on leave FBI employees responsible for the investigation of January 6th. That sounds political to me.
I have not placed anyone on leave who has not violated their ethical obligation or their oath to the
So
Constitution.
if they were investigating January 6th, you believe they were violating an ethic obligation?
Nope. I think the common theme here is you putting words in my mouth, and I'm not going to tolerate it, nor will the men and women of the FBI.
Well, you did place on leave an analyst responsible for investigating Russia's meddling in the 2016 election. Is that politicization? Is that retribution?
No, not if she broke the law or the ethical guidelines. I don't know which case you're talking about, but that's the standard. And we will hold ourselves inwardly accountable, and we will not be strayed from our mission because people think we are politicizing the Bureau. If you want to talk about someone who was attacked by a weaponized Bureau, you're looking at him. And now he's the director of the FBI, and he's cleaning it up.
Well, I would just say to everyone who's listening that the FBI needs to be focused on its mission to keep the entire country safe. It should not be weaponized for partisan political gain. Thank you,
We are.
Chairman.
Well, what we just witnessed in this hearing was more than just a routine exchange of political talking points. This was an intense moment where accountability, transparency, and trust in our nation's top law enforcement agency were put to the test. From the very first question, it was clear. Senator Murray was not interested in letting Director Patel off the hook, and for good reason. Let's start with the budget, or rather, the complete lack of a clear answer. The FBI, an agency with a budget of $10.7 billion, is required by law to submit its fiscal year 2025 spend plan and the full budget request for 2026. But what did we hear from Patel? A weak admission that the budget was overdue, but no clear timeline on when Congress would get the required documents. You'd think with the stakes as high as they are, ensuring national security and countering terrorism, that the FBI would have its fiscal house in order. But no, instead, we were met with a shrug, a promise of working on it, and a lot of empty words. And then, of course, there's the ongoing issue of resource cuts. Since 2023, the FBI has already lost 1,900 employees due to budget cut, and under Patel's watch, those cuts are expected to continue. These aren't just numbers. These are real people, real agents who work tirelessly to protect us from terror threats, organized crime, and even online predators. Yet here's Patel telling Congress that the FBI will do more with less. It's frustratingly ironic when the director of the FBI, the very institution tasked with ensuring national security, has to admit that his agency doesn't have enough resources to do its job properly. Then came the real punch in the gut. When asked about the FBI's role in handling high-profile investigations, including the politically charged ones related to President Trump and the January 6th insurrection, Patel dodged. He failed to directly address the growing concern about the FBI's politicization. This is not a small issue. In a democracy, we need to trust that our law enforcement is impartial. The very question of whether the FBI's actions are politically motivated is a serious one, and Patel's refusal to fully address this only fuels the fire. His inability to speak plainly about whether the FBI has been used as a political weapon under his leadership is deeply concerning. But the biggest moment of this hearing came when Patel was asked about FBI employees involved in high-profile investigations, particularly those linked to January 6th. Patel couldn't provide a straight answer about why certain agents were placed on leave, despite the fact that they were overseeing one of the most significant investigations in U.S. history. When pressed on this, he pushed back, claiming the agents' leave was related to violations of their ethical obligations. But if we look at the bigger picture, his refusal to directly answer only makes things more complicated. If the FBI is willing to punish its own agents for doing their jobs, how can the American public trust that it will enforce the law fairly for everyone? Or this isn't just about Director Patel, this is about the broader issue of how the FBI is operating and whether it's truly acting in the best interests of the American people or whether it's serving as a tool for political leverage. When Patel was questioned about the FBI's relationship with local law enforcement, he made it clear that resources for state and local partners are being slashed. The issue here isn't just the FBI's internal struggles, it's the ripple effect across the country. Without adequate resources, local police, who rely heavily on the FBI's expertise and support, will be left vulnerable in the fight against violent crime, gangs, and drug trafficking. The reality is that national security is only as strong as its weakest link, and if we keep cutting resources, we will be putting more than just the FBI at risk. Now, let's take a step back. We're talking about an institution that's supposed to be the gold standard for justice and law enforcement. We expect the FBI to serve the public, not to be a political pawn. And yet, throughout this entire hearing, the biggest takeaway is that there are glaring issues with the way the FBI operates under Patel's leadership. From the failure to submit timely budgets to the ongoing cuts in resources, the mismanagement is staggering. But it's not just about mismanagement, it's about the erosion of trust. How can we expect the FBI to keep us safe when it can't even protect its own integrity? So let's be clear about the implications here. What's at stake isn't just budget cuts or bureaucratic inefficiencies. What's at stake is the future of American law enforcement. If the FBI continues down this path of political maneuvering and transparency issues, it will lose the very foundation of trust that it's built on. And when that happens, the damage won't just be to the FBI's reputation, it will be to the very rule of law that holds this country together. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. What we saw here today is a classic example of how power can be abused when there is no real oversight. Senator Murray's questions were crucial, and her insistence on holding Patel accountable was exactly what this country needs right now. This isn't just about one agency or one director. This is about ensuring that law enforcement works for everyone, not just the powerful. So, what can we take away from this hearing? First, we need to demand better from our law enforcement agencies. We need transparency, accountability, and leadership that isn't afraid to speak the truth. Second, we need to keep pressuring the FBI to do its job without the political baggage that's so often attached to it. The more we push for answers, the more we can ensure that justice prevails, no matter who is in power. Lastly, this hearing is a reminder of why we must stay vigilant. The FBI might be the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world, but that power comes with responsibility. And when that responsibility is neglected, when answers are dodged and budgets are mismanaged, we all lose.